Hey, good morning, guys. This is Frank Thomas here. Just waiting for the live stream to catch up, but I got a very cool show for you this morning. This one is called Getting to Understand Git, and it's the tool for the programmer's toolbox that you need. And I'm not going to get into how to use it. I'm going to get into why you use it, maybe a bit in how you use it in terms of the philosophy, but not on the technical details. So make sure you stay tuned. Hey, good morning. So my name is Frank Thomas on Frank's Tech Channel, and I like to talk about programming stuff. And so today I'm going to talk about the one tool that if you're not using it as a programmer, and I'm going to be shocked if you're not, uh, is Git, Git. And it is the versioning software that is freely available for anybody to use, and it's something you just got to have. It's something you just have to have in your toolbox, and here's why. The Get is a piece of software that's going to let you do some incredible things with your code. Like you can keep it remotely in a secondary place for backup. That way, you can jump from machine to machine and use it in different places. I do that all the time. I have three computers I develop on. The one I'm tape recording right now, my big laptop downstairs, and also a portable one I take when I'm going back and forth to work on the bus. And so I use Get extensively. Well, I use it at work too, of course. But today I'm going to be talking to you about how you use Get effectively. Like use it to the maximum degree. Because I'll be perfectly honest with you, I've been using Get for a long time, but I've not been using it to the maximum degree. And that's what I want to cover today. But before I start, one of the first things I'm going to say is make sure you get to understand what Get is, what it can do for you. I actually recommend that you download, if you've got a Windows machine, I'm not sure about Macs or whatever, but Windows, what you would do is you would download the software, the Windows for Get, and I'd actually learn a lot of the commands in the Get Bash shell. Like it's just DOS commands that you would learn. And but I totally recommend getting to understand all the different things you can do, and actually take some projects and figure out how to break your versioning and fixing it. And that is definitely tip number one. It will take some time to figure out how to do that stuff. Excuse me, I have some quick Timmies here. You get dry when you're talking in these Alberta winters. But get to understand how Get works and how it's going to work for you. Now, the second thing that I see people do is they don't use it properly, and I'm very critical about this. What happens is, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm the only guy working on a project, let's say, and it's one of my projects. I'm not working with a team of other developers, but I'm working on my own. So what happens is you have your master branch, which is your primary branch in a repository, like a Git repository. And I'll make some changes. Make some changes, and then make a commit, save it up to Git. And I'll make some more changes, save it up to Git. Don't do it that way. It's like take gun, shoot foot. Use the feature that you can quickly create a secondary branch. And this ties in with fact number one. Understand the tools where you're using Get. If you're using it in Visual Studio, understand how to use the Get tools in Visual Studio. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, the tools that are in Visual Studio are awesome. You can do everything you need to do without jumping out of Visual Studio. A fellow developer said to me, Sarah, shout out to you if you're listening, said to me that it's great for us developers who are just almost like all over the board, and they're like, like she's right. It's fantastic because you can quickly, create a commit, sync it up to GitHub or Azure, or whatever you're using, GitLabs, and you're golden. But a lot of developers, especially when they're working on their own projects, will only develop on one branch. Smack yourself, because honestly and truthfully, that's not good. Let's say, for example, you develop something and you don't like it. You don't like the code that you've created. Now you got to mess around and get rid of all the commits that you've done to build this branch. And you have to remember, oh, what did I do for this, or what did I do for that? And also, too, you have this living history. Let's say I decide I'm going to develop a new feature A in my software. I will spin off a feature branch from the master, and I'll develop that. Okay, and and what I'll do is I'll squash it all down to one commit before I'm done, and then I'll push it up into my into GitHub or GitLabs, and then I would merge it back into master at that point in time. And because I'm the only guy developing it, it should merge just nicely. There shouldn't be any conflicts or anything like that. And you think, well, why would you do that? Well, let's say I'm working on a feature and I want to be able to replicate those pieces of that feature in another piece of software. Now, if you have one big, long, single branch master, how the heck are you going to be able to find what you did to get that feature put in? The cool thing is you can actually then go back and look at exactly what you did in that branch, its commit, and say, oh, I remember now. I did this, 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 and this. Brilliant way to do things. Honestly and truthfully, it becomes a living testament and a library, a coding library for you when you're working on a project. And I do that all the time now. I will go back and I'll go into a feature branch and I'll name them nicely and grab the pieces out of that and then dump it into another. And unfortunately, you can't cherry pick from one project to another. I don't know if you can. I've never tried, but I don't think you can. But the point is you can see exactly what you did. And that's really important. Okay, so make sure when you're developing, and a lot of developers don't do this and they need to do this. Branch off a new branch or a new feature branch off a master, develop on that, name it well, commit it back in, and merge it back into master. That way, you can keep all these records of things that you've done in the past and reflect on them in the future for yourself. Or let's say you're working on something and you decide you don't want to add it in. You just delete the branch. It doesn't affect your master at all. And it gives you very effective and fast programming. And also, too, you can work on multiple things at the same time. Let's say you're working on feature A, feature B, feature C. Now master's just cooking along, cooking away, everything's good. And, you can work on A, B, and C concurrently, one after the other, and they don't influence each other. You might have to deal with a few conflicts if it's the same areas of development, like same policy you're developing on. That's not such a big deal. Again, you can throw away something if you don't like it. You can put it all together or whatever. Okay, and also too, when you feature off a branch, this is point number 3. Keep your feature branches short. Do not develop on a feature branch for a month. Okay. In some development environments, that's what happens, and you can't avoid it. You're working on a big feature change, and it takes you that time. But even then, I'll question that and say maybe it's better if you decide where your marks in the sand are and decide, okay, when I get this piece done, I can migrate this back into master, and I'll branch off another feature and continue working there and get that major feature done by doing it in 4 or 5 minor features. Now, the reason why is all the reasons I've given you already, plus what happens is as time marches on, especially if you're working in a multi-developer team, what happens is developer A and developer B are working away. They like, let's say I'm working on one thing and I have somebody else working on something else. What happens is we're both working on our own feature branches. We've worked on them for a month. We've made these humongous changes, like we've touched not 1 or 2 files or 3 files. We've touched 50 or 60 files in the project, and the changes are sometimes far-reaching that we don't even think about. We're changing configuration files, we're changing property files, we're changing project files, we're changing solution files, and we don't realize this because we're adding packages, we're taking them out, we're upgrading, we're changing them. And what happens is I put my upgrade in, and then the other programmer tries to merge his in, and it won't merge. There's conflicts like crazy. Now, if we would have just minimized what we're doing on each feature branch, work on it on a pretense that it might be a couple hours we're using that branch, 10 minutes sometimes, or a day or two. what happens is it allows us to keep our code clean and conflict-free as much as possible. And with that, make sure you're always pulling your master. Like before you do a feature branch, pull the latest master. Always pull the latest master. And so I'm just trying to think here. Anything else I'm missing here? Those are the big points. Those are the big things. Like make sure that you learn how Get works with your tools. I mentioned that, like if you're using Visual Studio, it's fantastic. It's so integrated into Visual Studio. It's crazy. Visual Studio Code, it is kind of, I think that a lot of people try to come forth and try to put pieces in the box. At that point, if I'm doing stuff in Visual Studio Code, like if I'm doing any Angular programming or JavaScript programming or something like that, I will actually just use the Git bash. And the tools work all the same. And do yourself a favor, get yourself a pad and create a cheat sheet. Get cheat sheet of the commands you use over and over and over again. I have one. I've used it now for 2 years. Every once in a while, I find myself amending it or changing it as I find better ways to do things. But really and truthfully, those are the tools you want to use. Those are the tools that you are. This is how you want to use Git. And you definitely do want to use Git. Because one thing Git does give you, if you're not using it, is it gives you the ability to have snapshots in time of your code. Really, really important. Like I will do commits. I just thought of the one point that I was forgetting. I will do commits and I'll name them like I did this and this and this. And I'll go back later and it's great because I can go back and say, okay, what did I do, and where am I going? And that brings up my final point, and I think I've just forgotten it. Just thinking about it. I give up. Yeah, I give up, man. It's being a developer. Sometimes your memory is good, but not very long. But use Git properly. Use it to its best effect. Keep your commits tight. Keep them short. Always branch off of master. Understand that how Git works with your tool set. Darn it! I should have wrote that last one down when I thought about it. Sorry, guys. This is bugging me because it was actually another good point. Anyhow, I'm going to leave it there. This is a real quick video for you guys. And I think we've been moving along here now for just a few minutes. I'm looking for the recording time here. I'm just not seeing it in vMix. And I know it's looking me right in the face, so we'll leave it at that. Anyhow, this is Frank Thomas. I hope this is helpful for you. And make sure you use Git properly. Use it to its best effect. And make your life easier, guys. Anyhow, Frank Thomas, we'll talk to you next time.